Hi, everyone. The Armenian Quarter, the smallest one, occupies maybe, well, a bit less than even 15% of the entire old city. I think from this map you can see how small the Armenian Quarter is. Some consider the Armenian Quarter kind of the continuation of the Christian Quarter because Armenians are Christians, but Armenians definitely don't consider the same. Plus, well, there is a good reason to see the Armenian Quarter as a separate, independent, and quite interesting, very different, standout place, area of the old city, and in general, the history of the Armenian community in Jerusalem is quite interesting. And the Armenians were the first to adopt Christianity as their state religion, and the Armenian presence in the Holy Land started from the fourth century in 301, even before Constantine, right? The Armenians already became Christians, and the Armenian presence would be in the Holy Land from then on, almost from then on. So, and it's been continuous with almost without disruptions. The from In the previous episode, which is still available on my YouTube channel, we spoke about the differences of the Armenian Apostolic Church in Jerusalem from the rest of the Christian Armenian practices, and we visited some important places over the past previous tours. Well, the holy sites for Armenians. We will be talking about some other things today, and I will be also referring to what we have spoken already. And we spoke about the I would say inaccessibility of many areas within the Armenian Quarter, and that's also why Armenian Quarter is different from the other four, because the its biggest part of the Armenian Quarter is actually hidden within the walls, and they are not even open to public. A lot of areas are simply restricted. But you are in the Armenian Quarter because everywhere you will see the symbols of the Armenian, well, genocide, the remembrance of the Armenian genocide by the Ottomans, and also um, there are a lot of Armenian ceramic shops that's just along the main road. The road we are walking now is called the Road of Armenian Patriarchate because to the right hand side from where we are is the headquarters of the Armenian Patriarchate, and also the seminary. And well, right now to the right hand side is the seminary, and here from the left, and now we're going to look at it, is the main church of the Armenians in Jerusalem. I'm sharing some old photos with you. And as you can see, well, this is the same street. You see the entrance to the St. James convent, well, to the St. James Church. And in the photo, there is actually the burial procession of one of the Armenian patriarchs. And you see a lot of men. Some men are wearing, well, it's a black and white photo, but you can see that some men have the tarbush, right? The red hat with a tail, right? That is with a tassel. That is the headpiece worn by men in during the Ottoman times by the city population. And also some men are wearing hats, and some are wearing, well, some that are wearing clearly the hood. So this is actually the uniform of the Armenian monks. That's what you see here. And later on, we're going to see where the Armenian priests and patriarchs would be buried. The photographs, they all date to early 1900s, and actually the earliest photographs of the Armenian compound of the Armenian quarter, sorry, of Jerusalem were made were processed, were made and printed by the very first photography workshops that opened in Jerusalem in the Armenian quarter by the Armenians, and then it would be there would be a lot of Germans and the American colonies that let's move on. Well, I showed you these photographs last time, so but there's always something to add on as we go. It just you probably have noticed that the entrance to the St. James Cathedral from well looks a bit more opulent than nowadays. There used to be much bigger decoration. However, after 1948 war, that is also the War of Independence, right? That started after the establishment of the State of Israel. For 20 years, uh, the uh, the entire old city was under Jordanian control, and there was a lot of destruction and there was a lot of neglect as well by the Jordanians. So not much was going on here. There were Armenian presence still remained, but there was no really much of the maintenance and protection. So that's why some areas don't look just as opulent as they used to, just not as beautiful. So we are going, well, we visited this church last time, so I'm just giving you a very quick overview of the places we visited. So the uh, Saint James the Great, right, uh, who is also the patron saint of Spain, which is believed that in Saint James Church, on the territory of the Saint James Church, the head of the James the Apostle is buried, while his body is buried in Santa Maria de Compostela and Santiago de Compostela, and another James. So the church, this Armenian church, is consecrated to two James, the James the Just, to the Bishop of Jerusalem, and it is believed that the body of James the bishop is also buried on the territory of the premises of the Saint James convent. Well, you see the here it's interesting. By the way, I didn't really comment on that last time, so I think I will probably need to talk about it here. So you see the inscriptions in the three languages, in English, in Armenian. Well, yeah, I'm sure you can differ. You can say where is which language, and also in Arabic. This is the inscription from the Ottoman times, and we do know that under the Ottomans, the well all the well all the three monotheistic faiths, right? So Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, they were protected. They were allowed and absolutely legal. However, you just well there were certain taxes that non-Muslims had to pay. But in general, the relationship, well, in general, between the Armenian Christian Armenian and also the community and the Ottoman government rule were totally okay, and there well they there was economic partnership as well, and on many other levels. So the part of the convent was built during this part of the wall was built during the Ottoman times, and it's likely that they also incorporated some architecture from the Mamluk period. However, the church itself, which we visited last time, and I'm not going to repeat myself much here, was built so that the church itself is located in the building constructed in the Crusader period. And that's how it goes in Jerusalem. Buildings would be used and reused. Part of the buildings and part of the constructions, different architectural elements would be used, reused multiple times, and then it would be very difficult to say actually at which period this or that building was constructed. But we carry on, and well, it's so easy just to pass by this door and continue walking along the road of the street of the patriarchs, Armenian patriarchs, on your way towards the Zion Gate, and this is the road that. Let me do the following. So we start here by the Jaffa Gate. You see it in the left corner, like 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. And then you can walk out past the Armenian Quarter towards the Zion Gate. So you see, it's just one of the ways you can take on your way to the Jewish Quarter. Well, you can also enter through the Zion Gate, but the Jaffa Gate is clearly the most popular one and probably the most convenient if you're entering from, uh, let's say, from metro, from the train station and everything. So it's so easy to pass by this door. However, if you don't go there, you actually won't see anything at all, won't see anything of the Armenian Quarter because so one of the reasons why Armenian Quarter is less visited and less known because also many people don't even know that to see the bits of the Armenian Quarter that you can see, you actually need to go, you need to enter the premises behind behind the walls. And technically speaking, you can visit very little anyway, but at least something. So, um, well, there is a museum, right, of the Armenian history, Armenian heritage. We are going to visit the Edward and Helen Mardigan Museum next time. When I was in Jerusalem last summer, I was able to visit it and film it. Well, the content is enough for one tour for sure. There are some really interesting stories, um, remarkable ones. So it's definitely going to be educational and curious. A lot of unexpected connections, a lot of surprising stories too. Like I didn't know so many things. And also we will see some artifacts, some archaeology of the Armenian presence from the early Byzantine period. So many things. We will talk about Edward and Helen Mardigan as well, obviously on the tour because they are the founders of it, so to speak. So, what is the Armenian Quarter? As I said, it's within its walls, and so just imagine that this big part to the right hand side is all hidden behind the walls. Just imagine that, right? Just imagine. So you can see the main gate to the Cathedral of St. James, right? That's where we were about a couple minutes ago. And I told you that we were passing by to the right hand side. We're passing by the seminary, and the life, the entire compound is all hidden behind that wall that we were walking. So basically, to the left hand side from us. So you just have to, if you want to see the Armenian Quarter, you actually need to enter the compound itself. So not much you can see, but just a little bit. So you have found in the lower section of the layout, you see the Edward and Helen Mardigan Museum. That's the building you are allowed to visit. And we are going to talk about it next time. It's definitely going to take us the entire tour to talk about it. Just one of the interesting exhibits you could have just seen on the poster. And this is a small compound that is accessible to non-Armenians, to non-residents of the compound, and the rest, unfortunately, is not. So that's basically it. So there is a library with the Hajkars. So Hajkars are the Armenian crosses. And well, we spoke about this importance and all the symbolism. So the Armenian Hajj cards are they more than just a cross, just crosses. They can be huge. They always have a lot of meanings, a lot of symbols. There would always be the Armenian crosses. They always have, as you probably remember, some flowers on the ends, on the edges, and also there will always be some pomegranates and solar symbols and other flowers, and it could be even animals. There could be a lot of ornaments that would also mean a lot, and it's just part of the um, it's just part of the Armenian ways, and it's not only as per the Armenian community in Jerusalem. No, in general, the Armenian crosses are like this. So over here, this is already like the area non-Armenians and non-residents of the compound, which is the same, and well, are not allowed to access. And well, imagine, right? So we basically passed by the St. James Church. Well, and then a little later, we entered the compound through that only door, right? And now we are walking deeper into the courtyard, into the courtyard, and we actually find ourselves in the courtyard of the St. James Church. We are uh, in the heart of the residential and also administrative area, kind of both. And over here, um, you see the building, you see the arched constructions, right? The arch segments. So this is clearly the building of the Crusader period, obviously rebuilt, extended in the Ottoman times, but nevertheless. So this is clearly an older building, and uh, later on, these sections would be built with the bricks later on. So we don't know exactly what it looked before that, but must have been some other way. They look some other way. But starting from late 19th century, there was in the left section, there used to be this photo studio. That's exactly where the earliest photographs of Jerusalem, of the Holy Land, were developed, and also of the Armenian Quarter. Here right now ahead of us is just the apartments, just the residence, and also parts of the patriarchate buildings. Well, not the administration itself, but just the residential quarters. And this is the photograph of the compound taken in early 1900s. And it's interesting that actually up until 17th century, the entrance to the St. James Cathedral would be from the courtyard. So technically speaking, well, if access was opened, if access was granted to anyone, anyone could enter at least that part of the premises. But later on, this changed, and the courtyard is only accessible um, to Armenians, to Armenian monks, and the local population. By the way, there used to be more than 1,000 nuns and monks in the Armenian Quarter. However, right now there are very few of them, like several hundreds of them left, and mostly monks and very few nuns. Not entirely sure what is the reason, but we spoke about it before, like at the previous tour, that there are some tensions now between the Armenian community and the Armenian Patriarchate. Some I would say uh, dissatisfaction with some of the contracts that were signed and some distribution of the lands that belonged to the Armenians in the old city. Anyway, so we're not going into this. You can watch the previous tour to see what I'm referring to. I'm mainly referring to the parking lot just across the street from the entrance to the compound. So nevertheless, there was some really big service held, so that's why everyone was gathering in this courtyard. And well, this is already the building of the Saint James Church. This is the back side of it, and over there in the very end, you see where the Armenian flag is. These are the the residences, well, the apartments for the lay, for lay residents, basically, because it's not only the clergy, it's not only the, let's say, religious Armenians that are living in the quarter, but also the descendants, just the seculars, were, those are the descendants of those who fled from the genocide, right, in early 1900s, and Jerusalem, an Armenian community in Jerusalem welcomed the survivors of Armenian genocide. A lot of tiles, of course. Well, we spoke about it on the very first tour of the importance of the tiles of the Armenian ceramics for Jerusalem, and how it was brought back to the Holy Land, and how the Armenians helped restore the Dome of the Rock under the British, and it was all done under the British. So we'll be mentioning some of the Armenian artists as the tours go, as the tour goes. And now we're going back. Obviously, I wasn't allowed to enter anywhere, and I wouldn't be obviously doing that. And I just uh, was grateful for the hospitality. And I am back to the same compound. So over there ahead of us is the entrance to the Mardigan Museum, or basically Armenian History Museum. Well, when this particular video was filmed, which which was like several weeks ago when I was in Amsterdam, sorry, in Amsterdam, in Jerusalem just recently. But the video I will be showing you next time is from as of last summer. And to the right hand side is the building of the library. I spoke briefly about it, so I'll just remind you. The Luz Gulbenkian Library is named after one of the richest Armenians in the world, definitely in the 20th century. So Galuz Gulbenkian was born in Istanbul actually during the Ottoman times, and in late 18th century, well, there was a lot of Armenians living in the Ottoman Empire. Things would change to closer towards the obviously the First World War, but nevertheless, so he spoke Turkish, and he was from a really wealthy family. He started in Europe, and he was always there at the right time in the right place, and he helped negotiate any land deals and oil deals with Europe, between the Ottomans and Europe. And also, he was there at all the oil deals. So the Iraqi oil company, petroleum company, was the first oil in oil manufacture side in the Middle East. And then all the deals that would be signed between Europe, between the Western world, and also with other Middle Eastern territories and the Iraqi Petroleum Company would be done through him, and just he managed to always get his 5% from every deal. So people would call him Mr. 5%. He just managed to get it in writing in every agreement. Nobody really knows how he did that, how he managed to do that, but he became obviously very rich very quickly. And he was great. He was just brilliant, obviously. What can we say? So Mr. 5%. And well, what did he do with all the money? He would collect art, he would collect Armenian manuscripts, and a lot of books. And eventually, so he had to flee, obviously, Turkey, and he ended up in Portugal. In Portugal, well, his descendants eventually opened a big fund, Gulbenkian Foundation, and Gulbenkian Foundation helps Armenian diaspora, Armenians all around the world, and also finance a lot of Armenian institutions and museums. And that's my favorite photograph of the library. I found it on Wikipedia, right? It's my favorite. I like this one very much. Um, I have never been to this library, unfortunately. I don't think I will be given anything. I don't think I could just take a book or anything, but I'm not, well, I don't know. So there are about 100,000 rare books, manuscripts, and it's one of the biggest library with one of the biggest, Armenian libraries with one of the biggest collection of some of the most precious books and manuscripts. So, but it was closed when I was there. The library was closed. We go on, and there is a school. So this is the school, and to the left, this is the big football field. And if you move on further on, there would be another monastery, there will be another church, and to the left, another convent. It's just incredible how it works. But there we are. Holy Archangel's Armenian Convent. Let's see what it has there. So it's also written in Armenian. So that's an interesting thing. So we spoke about it many times that a lot of sites in Jerusalem and basically across the Holy Land, be it Jewish sites, Christian sites, or Muslim sites, there would be traditions, right? A certain holy site is connected to a certain saint or a certain episode from the life of a certain saint, and so on and so forth. And according to our and it, one and the same saint or one and the same event may be attributed to different sites in the country, depending on the tradition, depending on their Christian denomination. So, according to Armenian version, the area where the convent is located, um, it is believed to be the house of the high priest Annas. Well, and of course, well, I'm just sharing a little bit of the artworks that we kind of to have the visual under, well, the kind of for a visual aid. So who was Annas, and well, this name might ring a bell too because Annas is mentioned multiple times in the New Testament, such as in the Gospel of John. So the band of soldiers and their captain and the officers of the Jews arrested Jesus and bound him. First, they led him to Annas, for he was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, who was high priest that year. So we are reading about the times of Jesus that was in Jerusalem, and Jesus being arrested by the soldiers and taken to the high priest. So Annas indeed was the high priest, but in a slightly earlier period, and then Caiaphas, and whom you probably remember also from the New Testament, was the high priest at that time. But the authority of Annas, who was father-in-law to Caiaphas, well, Caiaphas was very big, and first soldiers took him to Annas, who was considered wise and extremely influential. So, so it is believed, according to the Armenian tradition, that Jesus was held in the house of Annas for a while before he would be taken to Caiaphas. It's a tradition. Was there any archaeology that connects the place to Annas? Well, yes and no. Well, so we are the Armenian Quarter, as you remember. Well, one of the entrances to the Armenian Quarter could be it's either the Jaffa Gate, I mean the closest one, or the Zion Gate. And the Zion Gate is very close to Mount Zion. It's basically by Mount Zion. And on the slopes of Mount Zion, there actually, well, were made some archaeological findings that connect Mount Zion to the story of Annas and Caiaphas. I like this. I like their faces, so like the 1500s Dutch work. Obviously, the Dutch artists had no idea how a Jewish priest of the Second Temple period looked, so they just painted them the way they thought that the clergy would look back then in their country. But yeah, it's just interesting to see that. Well, yeah. So so technically speaking, there is some archaeology that connects the tradition to some extra biblical sources. We will talk about it a little later. So it is believed that there used to grow in the garden where Jesus was held, there used to grow an olive tree. So we know that Jesus was bound, and the Armenians believe that Jesus was bound to an olive tree that was growing there at that time. And they believe that this could have been really the same olive tree, which is probably not the case because there are not so many olive trees that last for 2,000 years, but nevertheless. So, and also it is believed that this particular olive tree and this particular olives are, well, they have some medicinal qualities and even miracle working qualities. It is believed that, let's say, any woman that suffers from infertility or has any issues while trying to conceive a baby can pray under this, well, next to this olive tree and eat the olives from this tree, which are very, which are very bitter if you just eat them as they are. Well, is believed to be working miracles. Another Hajj a very small Hajj uh, technically speaking, the territory of the convent is closed to public, but as a guide, you can ask for, well, as a guide, I asked for permission and I was allowed to film, and I was almost alone there. Um, so obviously, if it's a convent, there has to be a church, and the church, you cannot really see it from anywhere, but you can see the bell tower. It's a small church, and the building is actually from the Crusader period, small church, and the church is believed to be standing, is believed to have been built on the spot where house of Annas was. Well, it's believed to have been, if it makes sense. The church was closed when I was there, so but at least this is how you would enter, and you see that that these stones to the left hand side are very different from those from the right hand side, and you can clearly see the arch patterns. So this is clearly the Crusader period. Normally, well, the Crusaders didn't really need any archaeology. Sometimes they would just randomly point a spot on the map and they would just say, okay, now this is the place where this and that happened. But sometimes they did have some, some findings or some mosaics that just surfaced and some other things. So at least we have some beautiful architecture, a meaningful place, and well, we can continue our explorations from here. Now, as we again, so now we are leaving the convent, right? And well, they obviously, I okay, I would have taken you to the museum, but we don't really have enough time. So now we will be leaving the Armenian Quarter itself, and we will have to leave even the old city through the Zion Gate. So the Zion Gate you can find in the lower section of the of this map, right? The Zion Gate over there. There you go. I think you can see the I think you can see the pointer. So the Zion Gate is there, and there is a lot to see also outside of the Zion Gate. So as I said, right, we are very close. Well, Zion Gate takes you to the Mount Zion, not the Zion that's as it is understood from the Old Testament. Nobody really knows what exactly Zion meant. Referred to the probably the entire territory of Judah. Nevertheless, so now Mount Zion is the mount just next to the Zion Gate. We spoke about the Zion Gate on my tours of the walls and gates of Jerusalem, so I'm not going to repeat myself here, but I want to take you to the area that also belongs to the Armenian Church. So the Armenian property stretches far beyond just the old city. There's a lot more territories outside of the walls of the old city, and also in the country. Well, it's less now, but it used to be more. There's several convents throughout the 20th century, several disputes, like big disputes over the land. Eventually, things started to change, and also the incapability to pay, well, to maintain a lot of sites that also obviously affected the land distribution and um, the the amount of the, let's say, the land that the Armenian Church controls. Some photographs from the 19th century, late 19th century. Uh, there you go. So the Zion Gate looks pretty much the same as it looked back in the 1500s when it was constructed by the Ottomans, right? Because the Ottomans eventually would, for the last time in history, rebuild the walls of the old city. But as you may have noticed, the Zion Gate now looks a little bit less beautiful because of the destruction, the traces of shootings during the 1948 war between Jordan and the newly born modern state of Israel. But we spoke about it, so you see the difference now, definitely. And but I would like to focus on something else. Normally, from the Zion Gate, let's say most visitors would probably, well, let's say, uh, well, Christians would probably go to the Dormition Abbey, or they would go to the room of the Last Supper, and the Jewish and Muslim visitors would probably go to the tomb of King David, which is also well, which is an important site for actually the three religions anyway. So, nevertheless, it's just basically one of the same place, the tomb of King David. We spoke about it, and the room of Last Supper is just one of the same compounds. We spoke about it when I did the tours on the ministry of Jesus in the Holy Land. Nevertheless, but there is also another road, and this is the road that will take you eventually. Just it's a walk past just along the walls of the old city from the outside, but on your way you will also pass by another Armenian convent and the cemetery, and that's what it looks like. Well, the building to the right-hand side that looks like a castle, this is the Dormition Abbey, which we visited on one of the tours. Uh, but for us, for the main interest for us is the unfinished building of the Armenian monastery, and the cemetery, which is hidden under the trees in the photo. This is the photo from Wikipedia, by the way. Somebody clearly forgot to wipe the lens while taking this photo, but nevertheless. And this area is very rarely visited. I was able to visit it on an Ishtalmud back in summer, well, the advanced course for tour guides, because mainly, well, there's always a guy that is kind of guards the place, or there's always a phone number you can call and he will come because he lives in the Armenian Quarter and will come if you need that. But you need to have really good reason to be given permission to visit the territory. But for guys, obviously, it's all doable. It's not like I'm accessing something no one can. Definitely not. But when I was there on the Ishtar everyone was filming. Like, oh wow, I've never. The guys would say, "Oh, I've never been here before," and those would be way more. Dolores, thank you so much for the tips. That would be a lot more experienced tour guide than I am, with like 20, 30 years of experience working as tour guide. So this was really impressive. So as you can see, the territory, well, the building was never finished. That's because they started the construction first. The territory was given, well, belonged to the Armenian Church for many centuries. The cemetery, there was a cemetery, there is, let's say, cemetery of the clergy. The patriarchs are buried on the territory. The cemetery is well, at least several centuries old. However, this building, they started the construction shortly before the First World War, and that means that they never really got to finish. Later on, under the British mandate, they were able to continue the construction, and then the 1948 war started, and basically for 20 years after the 1948 war, when the entire old city was under control of the Jordanians, and we are very close to the old city, so this territory was under heavy fire for 20 years. So Jordanians would shoot this area. So very few people actually, well, almost no one actually came. The burials would be taking place here, but there wouldn't be any life, there wouldn't be much of the Armenian presence, unfortunately. So mainly the dead that were buried on the territory. So here, what we see, it's quite interesting. These are the burial sites of the Armenian patriarchs. You see a lot of Armenian crosses. So these are the tombs. So these are the memorial stones describing the life and the service of the Armenian patriarchs over the centuries. Like this one is like 1910, right? And well, it's in Armenian. I don't speak Armenian, so I can't really read that to you. But each grave would have this beautiful ceramic tiles decorating it. And again, it's obviously the Armenian ceramics done by Armenian artists. We will talk about some of them more. And so, and this site, so what is this? That's interesting. So it's quite curious actually. So we spoke about the other convent, right? The Archangel's convent. That is the place where Annas, right, the high priest Annas and the father-in-law to Caiaphas, is believed to live. But again, well, now this site outside of the walls of the old city also has to have a certain connection to a certain episode from Christianity, right, from the New Testament, or a certain saint or anything. There's a mob burials here as well. Also, other members of the clergy, some patriarchs too from the very earlier times. So, as I said, it's centuries long. Well, some burials there are so old. There's not even you can't even read what's written on those stones. And yes, literally, you are walking on the dead, like literally. So, what are we looking at? So, this is clearly an old territory. This is not the big, unfinished building. It's the old one. You see the stones, you see the arches, you see the vaults. So, it is believed to have been here since the Crusader period. That is 11th and 12th century. And there is another tradition. So, as you remember from the Gospel of John, that so first Jesus was taken to Annas' place, and then to Caiaphas. So Armenians believe that here used to be the house of High Priest Caiaphas. Is there any other site that is attributed, that is believed, well, to have been the house of Caiaphas? Yes, as I said, depending on the tradition, there will be probably one, two, maybe three, maybe even four sites. But it just depends on which side you take. And nevertheless, this is clearly an old place, and well, it is believed that Joseph and Caiaphas lived here, and it is believed that Jesus was held here in his house, like before the trial, before everything, right? So first it was the Sanhedrin that had to take they had to make a decision whether well what to do, and then there would be the trial, right? And well, you have the story, you know the story. It's just some artworks that I found, just to illustrate it. And from Matthew we read, then those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. So that, but Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. So we remember Peter, and we remember the story that Peter followed Jesus, and we remember also the story of Peter actually uh, kind of betraying Jesus, right? Three times. I did a tour on that episode in the church of Saint Peter, well, of Saint Peter Gallicantu, right? Um, Gallicantu referring to the rooster, right? Uh, and that church is also located on the Mount Zion. So there are several traditions, but they still all boil down to one and the same location, Mount Zion. So why do we think that Caiaphas could actually have his house on Mount Zion, because technically speaking, it was really quite close, not too close, but quite close to the temple and through Zion gates. It's not really a long walk to the western wall nowadays. So in Luke we read, and seizing him, Jesus, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. So again, the high priest, well, technically speaking, Annas was no longer the high priest. Annas was kind of retired at that time. So it was Caiaphas. So why do we think it's Mount Zion? That's because not far from there was actually found an ossuary, which is a bone box. I will remind probably briefly here that the Jewish burials during the Second Temple period, this is the time when Jesus also lived and had his ministry. Jews would bury the Jews would bury Jews in the caves, and after 1 year, the relatives of the deceased would come, and by that time the flesh would have disintegrated, and the bones would be placed in the small bone boxes. They're called ossuaries, and there was found uh, the impressive, beautiful bone box with the remains of actually 6 people. So those bone boxes would be reusable. They they could be used multiple times, and there would be written in Aramaic the the name of Caiaphas, and also there would be the name of um, Caiapha uh, from the other side. It's just kind of etched on the side. And how did they? Well, they were able to. Well, obviously the bones were studied, and so the tests were carried out, and then so they found out that there were remains of 6 people, and one of the remains belonged to a male for around 80 years old, which kind of matches and checks with the story of Caiaphas, of who he was and how old he was. And in the house of Caiaphas, there is a small chapel. That's just, it was a very, very quick visit, and the cemetery, right? So the cemetery, well, this is already the secular part. It's not really in a good condition, as you can see. It's not really that much attended. However, well, those who, let's say, some some tombstones are taken care of, some not, but it's mainly done not by the Armenian Church. This section, it's secular, so it's not really taken care by the Armenian Church. It's taken care by the family. And I just would like to draw your attention to a couple of uh, um, gravestones here. Well, this one, it looks pretty big, and it does stand out, and it has this beautiful uh, decoration, this beautiful ceramic work. Well, actually, this is the family tomb of Balian family. And the Balians were one of the families, Armenian families, of that used to have, not actually have, the ceramic workshop, and they were one of the few families that joined the Ahanesian in their work in Jerusalem to create the tiles for the Dome of the Rock and other sites in the under the mandate. So this is Marie Balian. She passed away, well, not not really long ago, and she's buried there together with her husband and some other relatives. So it's a big grave, and some of the works that were made by Marie Balian. She was one of the remarkable Armenian artists. I think this is my favorite. I like the colors so much. Looks super modern, right? and vibrant, and the colors, they never really wash off, they never dwindle, they never fade. Sorry. Representative of another one, or just solely that. I can open the chat. Okay, it's interesting. Sharon has a question. So it looks like you probably cannot hear me. No sound. How interesting. Okay, let me check. I'm actually almost done, but let me see if you can hear me. I'm going to open the chat now. To see if you can hear anything. I have switched off the headset. It's okay now. Okay, so then I continue. We just need 1 minute to wrap up with the tour. Hold on. Here you go. So I don't know when exactly you stopped hearing me. I'll probably just start from the Balian. Yeah, so as I said, the first grave that we see, the first tombstone, is the tomb of Marie Balian, who, well, Balian family is well, one of the most famous Armenian families. The artists, they still have the well the big presence, and have a big place, and in the Armenian community in Jerusalem. So she was the artist. She created a lot of artworks that still decorate the Jerusalem and other areas of Israel, and also in private collections. Well, you can see her ceramic works all around Jerusalem. So beautiful, really beautiful. So it's a grave where also her husband is buried, and it's likely that the brother of her husband, and some others. There are a lot of dates and names you can see here. It's like a big family burial site. And well, this is the wall of the Dormition Abbey. And Mark, thank you so much for the coffee. And the last grave is it's Mikhail Zakarian. So Mikhail Zakarian is another representative of a prominent Armenian family. Also, one of the families that dealt with the ceramics, so also artists. And well, this is the secular part. As I said, it's not really maintained by the patriarchate, which means that, well, some families are no longer live in Jerusalem and don't really take care of the graves, and that part will probably never be built. Well, that big monastery, and well, who knows that what's going to happen. Armenian community doesn't really have the funds to finish the construction. It's not so easy. There are a lot of tensions at the moment, but then there's no doubt that the Armenian presence is important and strong, and it will never go anywhere. Okay, so this has been the last but one episode on the history of the Armenian community in Jerusalem, and also corners of the old city. Okay, let me see. Okay. So you just missed a minute. You sneezed, I think. No, I didn't. I didn't sneeze, but I'm probably coughed. I don't know, but you could hear me, but that's okay. So it's just probably a glitch or something, maybe connectivity. So everything else I think you have heard. So you have caught up. Okay, very good.
I'm so sorry. There's not really much I can show you because I mean I've showed you a lot more than what normally anyone can see. But this is it. There are a couple more churches that I don't have a footage of. I have never seen myself. Also, I didn't want to film the kids and the school, so I didn't do that. I mean, technically I could go there, but I decided not to. So next time is going to be the last episode of the Armenian Quarter, and we're going to visit the museum and talk about couple more sites that used to belong to the Armenian church in important areas. And some of them I even showed you on my live walking tours. So, no, totally. But I think now, after the three tours almost back to back and a lot of talking, I'll probably need to be whispering for a while because definitely there's something down there. I don't know. Something's definitely happening with my throat. Maybe just need a warm drink. Yeah, probably I should take something. So, and after we're done, basically we have covered all the four quarters of the old city. Also, we have walked above, like all the walls on the ramparts, and also outside the walls, talk about the gates and walls of the old city. So I think I've been pretty thorough with all those dozens of tours that I have done on each quarter. Well, and in a week from now, we are going to set off another journey outside of the walls of Jerusalem to East Jerusalem, mainly to the Damascus Road, because, well, this is going to be especially interesting for the Christian audience because there are a lot of Christian sites on the Damascus Road. It's like a big deal. Also, the American colony buildings, the big, well, there's a lot to talk about. I'm just kind of teasing you a little bit with what we're going to see. So, Dolly, I don't think we're going to see each other tomorrow. I mean, I wish, but I don't think so. I think we're going to see each other next Saturday. Let me just once again share the links for those who join us a little later. So far, well, I haven't been very productive with regards to scheduling, and we have only three tours scheduled. So three more to come. Definitely another tour on well, Russian literature. This time, next time, Misha's going to talk about Maxim Gorky. Very interesting phenomenon. Very interesting. Really interesting. And then the Armenian Quarter is already up the same time. The History Museum, Armenian History Museum. There's going to be the final episode on the Bar Street in St. Petersburg, the Rubenstein Street, and another tour of Tbilisi Palace. I haven't decided yet, but either way, it's going to be a special place with interesting history and connections, and a tour of St. Petersburg that I hope I'll be able to put together. I'll keep you posted. I will, I promise. I'm hoping to go to Jerusalem at the beginning of May, depending on Trump and Iran. Oh, yes. I'm so done with this story. I mean, my entire stay in Jerusalem, well, in Israel this time was like really, really tense. I was really anxious about the possible, well, I don't know. Well, but I'm jealous already, Sharon. That would be great if you could visit. I don't think I'll be there in May. Well, but definitely hoping to visit sometime in summer, but not for long. We'll see how it goes. There's a lot happening at the moment, so we'll see. Yes, indeed. And I hope nothing will happen, but the news are not really promising. But I don't know. I don't know. It's not looking good. Definitely, it's not looking good. Yes, exactly. Place your bets. This is what we do exactly, Dolly. Exactly. And the stakes are really high. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for your interest in my tours. I hope you have found this interesting and learned something new. But like I have learned a lot. I mean, there's always a lot that I learn or some things I just forget from the times I was a student at the course, and then like, oh wow, yeah, exactly. We learned that, and there's always something that I learned for every tour. So I guess it works both ways. So you learn something new, I learn something new, and this is why these tours are really really helpful and meaningful. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for your support. Thank you for also your encouragement for Grisha. Thank you, Marilyn. This is very, very sweet of you. It really means a lot to me, knowing that I can, well, spread the knowledge and share some less known areas. Well, Armenian Quarter is exactly this story. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, everyone, and I will see you next weekend. Well, Cindy, yeah, we can't trust anyone, and I'm so done really with the news. And like I've been following like every day. It's like it's not really getting easier. Okay, bye bye, everyone. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much, and I will be sharing the recordings as of tonight, hopefully early this week. Bye bye.